And kind of going back to that first one as well, before you go into the fun stuff, like what is the design of my logo gonna look like, and
Mhm.
all this other stuff, really figure out what transformation you're gonna take your potential clients through. They're here, you want them to be here. Figure out what those places are and how you fill that gap. Because without that, you're just going to be spinning your wheels. You're going to be pivoting a lot, like I did. So really figure out, ask those questions. Where are my potential clients at? Where do they want to be? And how can I help them get there?
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as a founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours? Just go to strategymeeting.com and grab some time with us, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Evan Price. Give you a quick introduction to Evan. So, started in the music industry as a drummer and in a band at about 15 years old. Took over and booked his own gigs as people in the industry otherwise wouldn't do it because they thought he was too young or wasn't able to do it. And so took over, did his own venues, did his own shows, did his own booking, kind of became the music and band promoter, found he really enjoyed it. So then as he was trying to kind of figure out what he wanted to do when he grows up, so to speak, or in quotes, his mom gave him the sage advice of, hey, you should, you're passionate about this, so you're really excited. It does, it's something you would enjoy. Why don't you go after it? So kind of in the mix with that, went and did some community college for a couple of years, did some general eds, worked at a movie theater, and then decided to pursue his passion. Also, I think in the mix in there, also went to Columbia University and then did Chicago and started his own business doing or working with independent artists, small businesses, doing a lot of what he did for his band when he was in a younger phase. So hopefully that's a reasonable summary to a much longer journey. But with that, welcome on the podcast, Evan.
Thank you, Devin. Appreciate you. Yeah, I think you hit everything.
All right, perfect. Well, I gave kind of that quick, kind of brief 30-second type of a run through, but now let's go back a bit to earlier on in your journey when you started in a band at 15 and tell us a little bit about how your journey got started.
Yeah, I mean, I remember taking a test telling us like which instrument we recommend, and they landed on drums. I was like, sure, I'll give it a shot. Ended up falling in love with it. Played in a jazz band. Ended up just starting a band with my friends. Just starting it out as a passion. I had no idea it would not then become, the music industry would become my lifelong dream. So it was just really cool to jam with my friends.
No,
And
just out of pure
yeah,
curiosity, not really necessarily as much as a journey. What kind of music did you guys do? What kind of band were you guys?
it was metal.
All right. So you
Definitely
got to
some.
slam on the drums and make some noise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we started off as like a lighter rock band, and then slowly got closer to metal music. Um, but
Hmm.
yeah, nobody was there managing us. We were just doing it ourselves, and somebody had to step up. And I don't know if it was just the Virgo in me or something, just stepped up. I was like, I guess I'm the manager now. So it just kind of happened. And I
Hmm.
found that I loved the management and just the behind the scenes stuff more than the, in front of the scenes
Hmm.
actually playing. So I don't play as much anymore. I jam every once in a while in the studio or something, but I just really love the business side of it. That's really what's, tickling my passion right now.
So now, and you mentioned it makes sense. Definitely on the one hand, you have you have a band, you're 15 years old, and so you're going, trying to get people to book you or do real venues and all that doesn't necessarily work, if nothing else, because they think you're too young. You guys aren't a real band, you don't know what you're doing. So how did you kind of figure that out, as far as, okay, other people won't book us, we'll have to do it ourselves? How did and you didn't necessarily, I don't think it, unless I correct wrong, you kind of, I always imagine you're kind of looking around the room saying, okay, how are we going to do this? Who wants to do it? And you're like, I'll do it, kind of a thing. So you rose your hand, not knowing that this is going to be a passion. But as you did that now, how did you figure that out? How did you get into it? How did you actually, get to work and make something out of it?
Yeah, I think mainly it was because a lot of the venues in our town were bars, and we just couldn't be booked there. So we only had one option at the time, which was this all ages, like straight edge punk club. So they didn't have alcohol, drugs on the premises. It was really, really kind of made for kids who want to get into the punk scene and the rock scene of sorts. So it really made sense. I became friends with the venue owner at the time, and it was
Mm,
just like, there was no like raising of a hand moment. It was just like I woke up one day, I was like, I think I'm the manager of this band that I'm in. But how I got started was I just figured it out, honestly. At that point, I didn't know what I was doing at all. It was just I got experience by gaining experience. I was just
mm,
like researching things online. I was when it grew past like the local bands, I was just like,
mm,
okay, the same, I'm booking the same bands, like let's try to get some bands we would love to play with. So I'd
mm,
go onto MySpace and I'd find their agents information, I'd call them and I would just say, hey, my name's Evan, I play in this band, we really dig the band that you manage or book or whatever, and I see you have an open date in between these two cities. Like,
mm.
you can stay on my floor, on the floor of my house. I'll get you some Little Caesars pizza as a rider,
Mm.
and give you $200. That's the best I can do. And started to gain traction, and those bands started to get bigger and bigger, and they just loved coming back. So it just gained experience just over just trying it. Honestly,
Hey, I
didn't
think
really make
that's
any
kudos to
money.
you. I think
Yeah.
that, not to overlook it, that, that's ingenuitive in the sense of, okay, we don't have a big budget, we can't do it, but hey, we'll find some bands that we like or that are similar to us. They have some time. We'll offer to give them a few or a free place to crash and a bit of food and pizza and a little bit of money. And I think that's awesome that you kind of, it's kind of that trial by fire in the sense, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I got to figure this out or it's not going to work. So, I'll fake it till I make it. I'll figure it out. And then we'll, see what works, what doesn't work, and find some success. So that's kind of cool that that's how you got started into it. So now so you can continue to do that. You're working your way, doing that through high school, doing it with the band, obviously going to high school as well. You graduated from high school. Now, what was that transition? Because I know that you kind of did, you did some general eds. I think it was at University of Columbia, and you're also trying to figure out what you wanted to do. So kind of how did all of that transition work?
Yeah, I mean, even when I was going through my gen eds at a community college in my hometown, I still wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to save some money and get my gen eds out of the way. It's literally the same classes.
Mm,
So when it got to the point that I needed to apply for quote unquote real college or whatever, I was like, I definitely had that crossroad moment. I was just like, what do I really want to do? And that was the moment that you spoke of before. It's like my mom was just like, you're literally doing it right now. Just continue doing that. There's plenty of colleges, there's plenty of outlets to allow you to grow your knowledge base in this realm. Well, just go for it. So there wasn't very many places that had music business.
mm,
All of the state schools were like, yeah, sure, we'll stick you in the music department and you can take some business classes. I'm like, that's not really the same thing, but okay, thanks. So yeah, I ended up going to Columbia College in Chicago. One of the very few places I found that actually had a real music business like department. So yeah, I transferred in as a junior and went there for 2 years and got my feet wet and was able to see like the city
mm,
life of sorts and see what the industry is like here. Had a bunch of internships
mm.
and really was able to see outside of me doing it myself. And it allowed me to see like some more entrepreneurs that were doing a similar thing for me. That internships I took were not like record labels by any means. I wasn't getting coffee for people. I was like working side by side with these people building their own labels or companies as well. So I think that also inspired me to build my own stuff
So,
after
and
after
now one question on that, because I think it's interesting. So as you're going through, and both the general eds, and then you say, okay, what am I going to do? I kind of got the general eds out of the way. I got to either drop out of school or pick a major or do something. And then I think it was, inspired. Your mom said, well, you're already doing it. As that's what you want to do. Now, were you still doing your own business at the time, doing bookings, being in the band, doing other things, or were you more exclusively kind of going to school, focusing on the major studies and that, or how did that, what were you doing during that time?
Yeah, when I moved here to Chicago, I stepped away from the band. I stepped away from the promotion company, and I was just like, okay, now's my time to actually not just learn, trial by fire, as you put it. I'm actually going
Mm,
to learn. I'm going to really learn. So I had to step away from that a little bit.
Mm.
The band replaced me, and then they eventually broke up, because I was the glue that held them together. Let's be honest. But yeah, even to this day, we're still very good friends. I, grew up with those guys. So it was bittersweet, but I knew that it was just the next step of my journey to really just get my feet wet in the industry, and learn more about the music business that I already, apart from what I already knew.
Well, awesome, and that definitely makes sense. And it's interesting. It's kind of interesting because I think there's a good mix of both. It probably is a good thing that you had the trial by fire, figure things out, because I've done both. I've done startups, small businesses. I've got the MBA degree, that teaches you, or at least teaches you, gives you some skills on how to run a business. But there is no replacing it for that on the street, kind of figuring it out, getting going on it. But there's also, I think, in there a good mix with having some of the educational background, so you really can kind of get it from all angles. So now as you're coming, so you go get the degree, you kind of focus on that, give up the band for a period of time. Coming out of school, then did you try and go work for the big labels? Did you kind of try and go do something else? Did you start your own band? Did you say, hey, I'm going to start my own business, I already know how to do this? Or kind of how did you get going as you're coming out of college?
Yeah, the first internship I got, of course, I came in as a junior, so I was like, I need to apply for an internship as soon as possible because I'm a little bit behind already. There was a portal that we could use within the college that helped you connect people. There's not a lot of labels here in Chicago, a lot of indie labels. There's maybe one. There's one label I looked up to called Victory Records that was here, but nothing was really available. But I ended up connecting with a blues musician in town. Chicago is known for its blues. Definitely wasn't my cup of tea in terms of music choice, but I was at college to get out of my comfort zone. So I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. Ended up being the best decision of my life. I was really able to see. So he was building his own label, his own publishing company. He was doing it all himself, very entrepreneurial mindset. And I looked up to that. And he was actually able to show me, the old school way of thinking. Like he was still selling 20,000 CDs, physical CDs at a
Mm.
time where like this was, putting the timestamp on it. This was when Spotify was just being created, like very new. It was like giving it away free memberships to college students type of thing. So the streaming was still up and coming. So it was kind of cool to get that knowledge base of like how he's really booking his own shows. He's charging $5,000 a show, selling CDs, touring the world type of thing. So I was able to get a viewpoint that I don't think I would have gotten if I was just an entry level intern at a label. So I think
Mhm.
that also helped me get closer to the decision of starting my own business because I was seeing him doing it and he was being successful at it.
No, and I think it's always nice to kind of have the mentor, and whether or not they're doing everything correct or they're doing something old school, new school, or any mixture, it's kind of one nice to see how others have done it, been successful, and how they built it, and to have that kind of person that can guide you along the way, or you can bounce ideas off with, or just commiserate with sometimes. In other words, so now you get going on. You say, okay, I think I can do this. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to start building it. How did it go? Was it one where you're able to find a lot of people to sign, a lot of independent artists, so, startup band or small bands? Was it difficult? Was it, rocket ship to the top, or kind of how did it go as you dived into doing your own business?
Yeah, I did a lot of work for free or for basically nothing, because I was just starting. And I had the degree, but the degree is one thing, but the real life experience is something totally different. And I understood that, especially it's not a degree, it's not a law degree, it's not a doctor, I'm not a doctor. It's like more of a great. I have the underlying composition of like what all of this means in terms of royalties and things like that, but you really get that knowledge in actually doing it, especially when we think of branding, which is what technically our company is, a branding company, music branding company. It's like I
Mhm.
just needed experience. So I worked with a lot of artists that I just was passionate about. I love their music, I love their vibe. I felt like I could like add to it. So I worked with a lot of friends, a lot of people I saw in college, and just wanted to get experience as much as possible. So it was a slow, I remember it being a slow build because I was just like, I want to work with artists, but I'm not really sure what this is. Is it management? Is it marketing? Am I branding them? So I definitely saw the business pivoting quite
Mm.
often, but
Mhm.
looking back, I don't regret it at all. It looks messy for sure, but
I
I
think
always
every
tell,
startup or small business looks messy. If you're to
yeah,
reflect back, very seldom have I seen a small or startup or small business where they go the is exactly the direction they envision. Almost inevitably, you're gonna have to pivot, adjust, figure out what works, what doesn't. So definitely makes sense. So so now you start out, you start doing it and working for free, working for a minimal amount, getting the reputation, clientele, referrals, making connections, so fast, kind of fast forwarding through your journey a bit, is that still where you're at? Have you finally got people that are willing to pay you? You still in the growing mode, still in the, kind of where did that all end up as you kind of or went through all of that journey?
sure. I mean, I always say this, I feel like we're always in the growing mode. I think we've stopped the constant pivoting though, which is really, I can have a sigh of relief where we know that we're on the right path now. And yeah, we do have active clients. Um, Essentially we're coaching, consulting, young independent artists that love what they do, but they don't really know how to build a business around it. So we come in and we guide them, we give them a path based on our experiences. So it's myself and three other coaches that are involved in the business. Before it was just myself in my college
Mm,
storeroom. So I'm very, very grateful to have an amazing team to back my vision and be able to tap into their specific expertise and bring that to artists. So yeah, I feel like we're in a good groove nowadays. In the past couple of years, we found our rhythm.
no, and that's great, and I like probably no pun intended, but rhythm with music was a good play on words.
I was thinking that too.
No, so now so you can that kind of brings us up to where you're at today. Now, kind of looking 6 to 12 months in the future, kind of where do you see things growing? Is it just kind of a steady growth and continue along, just doing what you're doing? Do you have any future plans, expansion, contraction, mergers, acquisition? Kind of what do you see the next 6 to 12 months looking like?
Yeah, so recently we, built out this program. It's called the Lifelong Superfan Program, which is a very specific coaching, curriculum, if you will. I
Mm,
think we're going to ride that out for a while. It's basically the foundation that we believe is important for every single artist to focus on these four, crucial elements. Without these four elements, they're just going to be spinning their wheels, wasting money on marketing and things like that. So like I said, I definitely feel like we've found our rhythm, found our groove, and we're just going to continue to build that out and work with as many artists as possible. A one-on-one coaching, in a world of courses, it's just like it's course heavy.
mhm,
I think what's missing in that is proper implementation. I think people are consume whether it's you're consuming a course to learn about IP law or financial stuff or music. It's like people will consume that all day and then never actually implement it. So I think
mhm.
that's why it's important to have a coach there or a guide to be like, great, here's the things you can consume, but I'm going to help you along the way and give you accountability. I always say this, we are like the personal trainer for your music career. Like I could feed you courses and YouTube videos all day, but will you actually take action is the question. Usually
Mm.
it's no. So I feel really, really passionate about what we've built here, and our clients are really happy with how we're helping them, learn things and also implement on them.
Well, that's awesome. That's both a fun place to be and a fun direction to be headed. So
Yep.
that's fun on your journey. So well, now as we kind of walk through a bit of your journey and even looking a bit into the future, we kind of reach a point where I always have two questions at the end of each podcast. So I'll jump to those now. So the first question I'll ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I've thought on this since you mentioned it before. I think for me, it was, this was right before COVID. We moved out of it right before COVID hit, but it was getting a brick and mortar like office space. I would always had it in my mind like, I made it. I've got an office. I got four walls that with my name on it.
I
And
got a business card.
yeah, exactly. And it's like focusing on those things before actually figuring out how I'm going to help people. I think that's, the shiny new object. Like, yeah, the business card thing is a great idea, is a great example. But I think that was the worst decision I made. It's just like, several $100s for me to just get out of my bed, go there and work by myself.
Mhm.
I had in my mind I was going to get interns. And it's like, then the interns came and it's just like, well, now it's a full-time job just to manage the interns and figure out what they're going to do. So it's like, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit.
Mm.
So I think what I learned there is like, you need your product slash service figured out before you kind of, polish it with all these fancy tools and, a Shark Tank in your in your office or something. It's like all that's just fluff, and it just
Mhm.
takes you away from the actual business itself. So yeah, I like a lot of other people right now. I'm in my home. I got a home office. I love it. I've been able to find a balance where a lot of people are like, I can't work at home because then I'll just do nothing. It's like I've been able to find that balance as everybody else has during this time. And I'm feeling good, and we're saving money on rent, and I'm able to focus on the business itself and not just the flash, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely makes sense. And it's funny because, I do have an office, but if you were to look at the office, it's not like it's a bad looking office, but it's not immaculate. It's not a downtown or in a high rise. And that's kind of what always people think on a lawyer is, oh, they have immaculate offices. It's adorned with wood and it's in the big building and it's, middle of the city and it, shows success. And yet I'm kind of with you. It's like, oftentimes when you start on the business, you focus more on the things that make you feel successful as opposed to that actually make you successful. You kind of oh, I've got to get the big office and the employees and everything else because then I've made it and I feel successful. And then you find out a lot of times those are detrimental to business, or they don't help it, or they have increased costs and everything else, and it doesn't really help to grow and build a business, especially early on. So I like that as a mistake to be made, but also a lesson learned. So now we jump to the second question, which is, if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what'd be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
Figure out, again, kind of going back to that first one as well, before you go into the fun stuff, like what is the design of my logo going to look like and
Mhm.
all this other stuff. Really figure out what transformation you're going to take your potential clients through. They're here, you want them to be here. Figure out what those places are and how you fill that gap, because without that you're
Mhm.
just going to be spinning your wheels. You're going to be pivoting a lot like I did. So really figure out, ask those questions. Where are my potential clients at? Where do they want to be? And how can I help them get there?
No, I like that. And one of the things I'll piggyback on that because when I set up the law firm, there are a lot of law firms, a lot of good law firms out there, but most of the time lawyers are terrible about thinking about the journey that the client actually takes, and it's much more just, hey, I'm going to give them good legal advice, I'll do good legal work, which is all important. I'm not dissuading that at all, but you don't really think of how do I get them from point A to point B? What is that journey? What does that feel like? What information they need? When do they get confused? When do they need help? And kind of how do I move them along so that it's one, they get from point A to point B, but it's also a good journey along the way. And I think that if you focus on that most of the time, especially if you're in a service-based industry, even really a products-based industry, but especially service, you're going to be above the most of the competition because most of them, they don't think I'm just going to provide them a service. They're going to take it, they're going to use it, and they never really think about the journey. So I love that as a takeaway for startups and small businesses. Well, as we wrap up, if people want to reach out to you, they want to learn more about your service, they want to be a client, a customer, they want to start a band with you, they want to be an investor, they want to be an employee, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above. What's the best way to reach out, find out more?
Sure. First place is our website. It's artistcollect.com. Our business is called Artist Collective, but artistcollective.com cost about $65,000. So no, thank you. So artistcollective.com, or, Instagram. I live on Instagram. You can reach out to me directly. It's at AC_Evan, and just shoot me a DM. Let's have a conversation. A lot of our services and how to get started in the program I talked about is going to be on our website. Got a cool video that really explains our philosophy and that foundation, those four elements. If you're curious what those four elements are, head to that website and check it out.
All right. Well, I definitely encourage people to check it out, hit you up on Instagram, check out the website, do all of the above, and definitely worthwhile to find out more, especially if you're in a band or if you're an independent artist and ever need help along that journey. Well, thank you again, Evan, for coming on. It's been a fun and a pleasure to have you on. Now, for all of you that are listeners, if you have your own journey to tell and you'd like to share it, we'd love to hear it. Just go to inventiveguest.com and apply to be on the podcast. Two more things as a listener. One, if make sure to click subscribe in your podcast player so you know when all of our awesome episodes come out. And two, make sure to leave us a review so everybody else can find out about our awesome episodes. Last but not least, if you ever need help with patents, trademarks, or anything else with the business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always happy to help. Thanks again, Evan. It's been it's been a pleasure, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thanks, Devin. Appreciate you.